Hello and welcome. It is that time again where we have a dev diary for Crusader Kings 3. And finally, we're talking about religion and faith. And, well, I'm just going to be straight out. I'm not a very religious person at all, but I fucking love playing religious characters in games. Spiritualism in Stellaris, very pious, zealous, religious people in Crusader Kings. I love it. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And so I'm incredibly pumped about reading this dev diary, which I'm doing obviously off the cuff, so you can get my natural, original reactions. So let's just get into it. Come one, come all, zealots and cynics, fundamentalists and heretics. It's time for us to finally talk about religion in Crusader Kings 3 and all that it entails. While parts of the religion system in CK3 may seem familiar to fans of the previous games, the system itself has been completely rebuilt from the ground up. As a result, there is little point in talking about the changes from CK2. Instead, I'll start diving into how religion works in CK3 and what that means to you as a player. So we have the religious hierarchy. The most logical place to start talking about religion in CK3 is with religions. As a game concept, a religion is defined by four main things. What traits are considered sins and virtues, 3 each by default, what religion family it belongs to, Abrahamic, Oriental or Pagan, and what the standard religious doctrines are of the faiths, and finally what tenets are available to its faiths. Individual characters and counties will never believe in a whole religion. They believe in a faith instead, with each religion having several faiths under it. For example, Catholicism and Orthodoxy are faiths under Christianity, while Theravada and Mahayana, pretty much sure I pronounced that perfectly well as per usual, are faiths under Buddhism. Okay, that's an interesting way of doing things. You never believe in a whole religion, so let's talk about real-world religions. The religion is Christianity, and then the faiths are Lutheranism, and Mormonism, and all that kind of stuff. I guess that works. Yeah, sure. So we have I guess, the Christian faiths. We have Catholicism. We have Orthodoxy. We have Coptic, Nestorianism, and Apostolic. It's interesting, Catholicism is fairly close to 666. I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of screenshots of, oh, look, 666 counties follow Catholicism, therefore, Satanism is in the game, confirmed. It's only 40% fervor. We've yet to find out what fervor is. I'm assuming we're going to have that sometime. Orthodoxy's got 51%, Coptic, Nestorianism 60, Apostolic at 50. Okie dokie. You can see how big these faiths are. I keep trying to say religions there, but no, they're faiths. Right. Okay, fair enough. Screenshot showing a selection of either Christian faiths, including distinct Coptic and Apostolic faiths. Similar to the way that faiths belong to a religion, religions belong to religion family. Religion families are a little more than groups of religions, but this does serve an important purpose as it plays a significant part in how faith hostility is calculated. More on that in a later dev diary. Considering this is the time of Crusader Kings, you would imagine that the Catholics and the Sunnis would be very hostile to one another, with the whole crusading part of Crusader Kings. So I wonder if hostility is going to be a sliding scale where at some points they're fairly non-hostile and other points they're very hostile. I just don't see how them being both Abrahamic religions really plays into how hostile they are. Judaism is an Abrahamic religion. And while the Jews were not treated especially well in many, many countries during this period, for a long time as well, they were also tolerated. They were also very tolerated in Islamic countries. So I'm not sure. Because then you would imagine that faith hostility would be relatively low. But then faith hostility between Christians and Muslims during this period would be relatively high. And then, looking outside of the group, the hostility between Christians and pagans, especially in the north, would be relatively high. I'm really trying. I'm struggling to really think of how faith hostility would be calculated, because it can't be just a static thing. It's got to be changed by events, because I really don't see the correlation between them being both Abrahamic religions and, hostility to one another. Unless Abrahamic religions are just, you have a massive penalty to, faith hostility with literally everybody, because, it's just what they did. It's just what they did. I'd say in this period, I'm not talking about today, just putting that aside, everything I say about religion is about the period of time in which Crusader Kings is set. Things may be true for today, things may be completely inaccurate for today. It doesn't matter, I'm talking about then. Disclaimer out the way. Faith hostility, back then, was more a case of who had the power. Like, who was the big dog? When there is relatively few, say, completely arbitrary example, say there are relatively few Nestorians in England, right? I don't know where Nestorian is from, so that's why I think it's fairly foreign to England, so that's why I'm going with it. Say there are very few Nestorians in England. They would not be very hostile because they know that they are massively outnumbered, and if they are very hostile, they would get absolutely murdered. But if they became much more powerful, say they became the main faith in England, then their hostility would grow as they feel more safe and secure to be hostile. They have the ability to be hostile without being utterly wiped out. So, I don't know, I feel like faith hostility should be a product of how strong the faith is, rather than what family it is. I don't know. I have no idea how it works. I'm just struggling to, think of a way that it works. Anyway, let's move on though. Anatomy of a faith. So if a character believes in a faith, what does that mean for them? Well, each faith is based on its parent religion and inherits those attributes, but will be differentiated from other faiths by its tenets, doctrines, and holy sites. So first we have tenets. Tenets are mechanical representations of the most important rites, rituals, and traditions of a faith. Every faith has exactly 3, picked from a total of around 50 different tenets in the whole game. Tenets are the things which make a faith special and unique, the things that set it apart from other faiths even within the same religion, and especially outside of it. Fair enough, so we got 3 tenets. It says there exactly 3, but didn't it say usually 3 up here? 3 each by default. That made me think that there was going to be, some way to have more. But anyway, pick from a total around 50 different tenets. Okay, so this is for Catholicism. We have armed pilgrimages, crusades. We have communion, and we have monasticism. They've got 5 sins and 5 virtues. Wasn't there 7 deadly sins? Pretty sure it should be 7. But yeah. Does it say anything about sins and virtues here? Not really. Not really. Maybe it does so down below. So, it's got the 3 tenets, pilgrimage, communion, monasticism. Taking Catholicism as an example, we see one of their tenets is that of communion. This tenet is what allows the Catholic Pope to excommunicate rulers, as well as allowing rulers to buy indulgences from the Pope. Martin Luther is rolling in his grave thinking about this. So communion, characters may seek indulgences from their head of faith in exchange for gold, to exchange gold for piety. Spiritual heads of faith may excommunicate other characters of their faith, makes honest a virtue, makes deceitful a sin. I always thought communion was the whole bread and wine thing. I didn't know it was all a whole part of indulgences, but no. Our rituals are not merely symbolic, they invoke the very presence of the divine itself. Those who cannot or do not join us in the practice cannot be true believers. So it promotes honesty and community among its adherents. Okay. You may notice here that communion is also modifies what traits are considered sins and virtues by the faith. While every faith inherits 3 sins and virtues from its parent religion, tenets can add, modify, or remove these. While some tenets are unique to a single faith, others are shared among multiple faiths. For example, both Catholicism and Orthodoxy have the communion tenet. However, it's important to note that no 2 faiths have the exact same combination of tenets. As a result, every faith will play at least a little bit differently, and some drastically so. So we have here sacred lies. Adherents earn piety for successfully completing intrigue schemes. They're more willing to become agents in schemes of other characters. Deceitful is a virtue and honest is a sin. Interesting. Lying is the most profound art in existence. Those who can convince others of their lies are holy. Those who can successfully lie to themselves are unstoppable. Alright then. that I guess that's that can't be a real world thing. That's one that they've come up with, surely. Then we have doctrines. While less impactful than tenets, doctrines are still a crucial part of each faith. A faith's doctrines determine both its clerical structure as well as what its adherents can and cannot legally do. So we have, I guess this is still for Catholicism, we have male-dominated, righteous, theocratic, ecumenism. It is monogamous. Bastardry is, child out of wedlock. You can legitimize them. Divorce must be approved. Consanguinity, that is having marriage between cousins, I believe. So you can avunculate the marriage. I don't know the word avunculate, that's brand new to me. But what I think it probably means, knowing a little bit of history, is with permission from the Pope or maybe bishops, you can do it. I think you just need permission and then you can. I think that's what it means, but I might be completely wrong there. So we've got crime doctrine. Same-sex relations are shunned. Not illegal, just shunned. Female adultery is criminal. Deviancy is criminal. You know what kind of deviancy that is when you're looking at a picture of an animal. Male adultery is shunned. So this one's criminal, this one's shunned. Alright. Kinslaying, close kin is criminal. Witchcraft is criminal. We've got clerical function is control. That makes sense to me. Clerical marriage is disallowed. That's like bishops being married. Clerical gender is only men. Clerical appointment is spiritual and for life. And then special doctrines, teaching of Jesus. Now we have the current head of the faith, Pope Alexander II. I love how the Pope hat is coming off the screen. That's pretty fun. Head of the faith is spiritual. He is the papacy. Lovely. Every faith has at least 18 doctrines, with a few extras depending on the circumstances. While every religion has a default stance for each doctrine, these should be considered guidelines more than actual rules. Okay.
The code is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
Individual faiths can and do break away from standard dogma when appropriate. The different doctrines are broken up into 4 categories. So we have main doctrines, marriage doctrines, crime doctrines, and clergy doctrines. Main doctrines cover how a faith is organized on a fundamental level. These include things such as the traditional gender roles of a faith, if the faith has a religious head or not, how accepting or unaccepting the faith is of other faiths and religions, and if its priests must be part of a dedicated theocracy or if lay clergy are permitted. Marriage doctrines cover who is allowed to get married and how, if rulers can have multiple spouses, if concubines are permitted, if and when divorce is permitted, extramarital relations can result in legitimate heirs, and who can even get married in the first place. Now, crime doctrines cover what acts, if any, are considered immoral or outright criminal. Characters are publicly known to have violated these principles are shunned, suffering an opinion penalty with all characters of that faith, and may even be considered an outright criminal who can be lawfully imprisoned and punished for their violations against divine law. Finally, the clergy doctrines determine how priests must behave and what their primary role in society is. The clergy doctrines also determine what power, if any, secular rulers have over the clergy within their realm. I'm wondering now if you can change these doctrines during a campaign. Say you create your own religion, you split away from the Pope, create your own religion. You are the head of the church, and say you have a particularly troublesome vassal that you want to get rid of. Can you change one of these doctrines to something that would make him in breach of clerical law, divine law, whatever. Like, that could be a pretty interesting strategy. I don't know. So, holy sites. Are we talking about Imperator now? Finally, every faith has some number of holy sites that a faith considers to be more sacred than the rest. Controlling these holy sites will give a bonus to all characters of that faith. This can create a significant source of conflict in the game, as many different faiths can share specific holy sites, and every one of them wants to be the one in control. So we have... okay, so this is for Orthodox. We have Jerusalem, Constantinople, Rome, Alexandria, Antioch. That is the it's not the Tetrarchy, is it? It's the Pentarchy. So if you control Jerusalem, you get piety, direct vassal opinion +5 for Constantinople, piety for Rome, learning +1 for Alexandria, makes sense with the library, and then piety for Antioch. Very nice. So, modability. I'm going to go on a quick tangent here and talk about modding faiths and religions in Crusader Kings 3. That's what I was actually interested in, because this system of tenets and faiths and doctrines looks really like it could do amazingly well for fantasy mods specifically. I'm so looking forward to what some people manage to do with that. It's going to be fantastic. Primarily, I want to mention that everything I've talked about so far is completely modular. This means religion groups, religions, faiths, doctrines, tenets, and holy sites can all be swapped in and out, modified, changed, or new ones added with even just a basic knowledge of scripting. I mean, even that looks fairly simple to me. I mean, what's your faith? Wait, why is Catholic closed? I mean, shouldn't there be stuff here? Anyway, these are your faiths. Orthodox, and then this is for the Coptic stuff, and this is the holy sites for the Coptic. Yeah, no, I could read this. This is fine. This is one of the primary reasons we settled on the faith, tenet, and doctrine system for CK3. Even though religion has a massive impact and touches dozens of game systems, it's easy for even new modders to dip their toes into the pool, start adding or changing things as they see fit. For experienced modders, this setup improves productivity and reduces the risk of introducing bugs. This also had the side effect of improving our productivity here at the office, which brings me to... this is my faith. There are many like it, but this one is mine. At our current court, we have 99 different faiths in Crusader Kings 3, all of which are fully playable. That's more than doubles the number of playable religions we had in CK2 after Jade Dragon released. Lovely. And that looks pretty nice. That's a whole lot of Copts. I didn't know there was that many Copts, honestly. We've also got some Ismaili, some Kushite, more Copts. Haymanot, I guess that is a Jewish style religion. Usually we see the Jews in blue. And then we have the Waki. Alright, cool. Very nice. Remember when I said earlier about how no two faiths have the same combination of tenets and how every faith would play at least slightly differently? Yeah, your options are quite extensive. You can play as the good old Catholics, one of their heresies like the Cathars. You can play a different branch of Christianity, such as the Coptic Church or the Armenian Apostolic Church. Play as the more unusual branch of Christianity like the Adamites. You can play not just as Sunni or Shia, but as individual religious movements or schools within them, such as the Ash'ari or Maturidi, and the Ismaili or Karmatian. You can even play as various Jewish movements, such as the Karaites or the Rabbanists. You can play as dualist sects, such as Sabianism or Manichaeism. Play as individual branches of Hinduism, such as Vaishnavism, Shaktism, or make the choice between Theravada Mahayana and Vairayana Buddhism. And play as one of 3 different schools of Confucianism, shaped by different philosophies and focuses. You can play as distinct African pagan faiths such as Bori animism or the Senegambian Rug Sen. You can play as even the Tengri and Magyar steppe pagans, each with their own special traditions. You play as one of the Indian or Tibetan pagans as well, extending beyond Bon and into other regional and cultural faiths. Finally, don't forget our old favourite pagan faiths like Norse, now called Asatru. Oh, I love it. That's fantastic that they've named it back that. It was called Germanic well, it was called Norse, right, in CK2, and then they changed it to Germanic. And that's just a fucking kick in the tits, that is. Didn't like that at all. While many of these faiths will show some similarities and common elements, especially within the same religion, none of them are identical to one another. They all differentiate themselves mechanically, at least in one way, often in many ways. But let's say you've looked at every single one of these faiths and none of them are quite right. What then? is soul-searching medieval ruler to do? Well, join us next week for the Dev Diary on custom faith creation and pagan reformation. Lovely. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. Now, before we move on, we have some dev comments to read. So, looks like this was a fairly well-liked Dev Diary as well. That is very, very positive. So, please, for the love of gods, do not call Norse Asatru. Well, don't call it fucking Germanic. The term completely ignores the Vanir and is not representative of what people at the time believed, among other issues including literal translation of them. Might I suggest Forn Cedar or Forn Sithra if you must anglicize it, or the Troth if you want to call it something other than Nordic or Germanic paganism. Those two terms are far more universal. I was fine with the Asatru. I didn't know about the Vanir. That name rings a bell, but I mean, it could just, Vanir could be a part of the, it'd be a different faith within the same religion, I don't know. Anyway, it's really fantastic stuff. Is there some kind of mechanic for inherent hostility between faiths? There's a future Dev Diary on the subject of hostility, heresies, and holy wars. Will be a way for people to deviate from a faith without creating a custom religion or becoming a heretic. Well, no, if you deviate from a faith, you're a heretic, end of story. Like, for instance, the concubinage in Christian countries. Not at launch, it's something on our radar for a future patch. Okay. Will this affect events? Obviously. Will there be events which require Catholicism, or will there be events that require faith that does have all of Catholicism's tenets? Both kind of events. Doctrinal or tenet events are more about specific practices, while Catholic-specific ones would go beyond the tenets and doctrines into more nuanced stuff. Due to the massive scope of the religious system, there are only a handful of the latter. Well, I mean, you spelled latter wrong. You spelled it later, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. I guess and hope that the doctrines can change by themselves without player's intervention, probably through the head of faith during the game. For example, clergy marriage being allowed for Catholics in 867, then forbidden thanks to Gregorian reform. Our codebase supports this, but sadly we do not have any content in-game which takes advantage of this. We do not have the time to implement my dream of rulers sponsoring new ecumenical councils. I mean, I guess just specifically this could be event-based. Like a specific... Oh, the date is this. You've got a mean time to happen event of, a month. It will objectively always fire on this day and do this thing. Like, that could work. Yeah. I really like this one. This new system looks great. Shame there's no anti-papacy, though. The interface says something about clerical appointment spiritual for life. So there's some kind of investiture system. How are they appointed? Can you tell us which religion uses sacred lies tenet, or is it custom religions only? Investiture mechanics are fixed for each faith. Dynamic investiture, along with the addition of anti-papacies, is something we really want to add in the future patch, so we don't have the anti-pope, unfortunately. Sacred lies is only for custom religions, as I thought. Yeah. That's I guess that. Assuming this relates to consanguinity tab of the doctrines. If so, might ask how it works. If the faith prohibits, say, first cousin marriage, is it hard lock, or are there merely consequences, monthly piety loss perhaps, for breaking the doctrine? It's a hard lock, but could be modded in script to support the latter. I mean, maybe if you elope with the... Is it a diplomacy perk? When we were doing perks and trees and stuff? Maybe you can elope with your cousin. I don't know. What is fervor? Religious hierarchy. Also, it doesn't get hierarchy. Hierarchy consists of 3 levels. No subfaiths, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Cathar, and Policism are co-equal faiths under Christianity. What each faith considers to be heretical is based on the religious hostility system, which will be discussed in a future diary, blah blah blah. Okay. Just be 100% certain, am I right in interpreting the consanguinity tab to the doctrine relate to what degree relations marriage is forbidden within? Consanguinity doctrine determines who can get married, as well as illicit lover relationship is considered incestuous. Okay. Can the number of tenets for a faith be modded? For example, I want my faith to have 10 tenets. Technically, yes, however, the game's GUI only supports 3. With 4, it looks really janky, and with 5, important information starts going off the screen. That's fair enough. I mean, if you have a really big screen, then it doesn't really matter. You just make it bigger if you want. Let's say we're interested in a different religion. From the Learning Lifestyles diary, we learned about a tenet in the scholar tree, apostate, that made faith conversion cost -75%. Is any person able to convert to any faith as long as they have piety for it? So you can convert it to any faith at any time, but the cost to change your faith is dynamic, which makes your situation have a large impact on how easy or possible it is to convert. So switching to another faith within the same religion is cheapest and easiest, switching to another religion is harder, and switching to another religion family is the hardest. Being married to or having a concubine of your target faith provides a significant discount to the above cost. The apostate perk provides a significant discount. Converting from an organized reformed faith into an unreformed pagan faith carries a hefty penalty, but is what everyone should do. Non-tribal rulers trying to convert to unreformed pagan faith also suffer additional penalty. Converting to a dead religion, so no living pharaohs, carries an absolutely massive penalty, making it impossible for all but the most learned and determined rulers. Isn't that what most people are doing now that are now following the Norse faith? That was technically dead, maybe? I don't know. Will Hellenism be payable? Technically, it exists, but was primarily added to fill out our history database for characters who are Hellenic. Nobody alive in either start date is a follower of it. Right, but can you convert to it? Well, it's a dead religion as mentioned above, so it's not really a realistic goal for most characters. All of its tenets and doctrines do exist, however, and they will function as will any other faith. I'm totally doing it. Totally doing it. Sounds like the next dev diary will be more about the pagans, but can we get a confirm deny on the two major ARR pagan religions, Celtic and Egyptian? If you've got 99, surely there's space for the pre-Abrahamic religions of the entire map to be represented, even if Christianization has all but completely displaced them by game time. Celtic paganism is not in. Egyptian paganism is in, sort of. Cushitism, shown in the screenshot, draws many elements and influences from it, including the inclusion of various Egyptian gods as part of its pantheon. However, it's not immediately recognizable as the Egyptian paganism that was popularized after Napoleon's Egyptian campaign, since it focuses more on Upper Egypt and Nubia than Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt is the north. It makes sense if you think of the river, but yeah, whatever. Gnostic Christianity is in several varieties. In fact, they all have special relationships with each other and Manichaeism. Gnostic Christianity is Gnostic means knowing, so like being 100% certain of something. At least that's what it means now. I don't know what it means back then. Probably the same thing. Pantheons are also represented for all polytheistic faiths as well. Not all of them have a pick a god mechanic that existed in CK2, but when a character goes to war, they'll pray to their faith's war deity. When they pray to for a bountiful harvest, they'll pray to the harvest and wealth deity, etc. Why doesn't Zoroastrianism and the various faiths have its own family? I don't see it being part of Oriental or Pagan or Abrahamic. In game terms, Zoroastrianism is part of the Oriental family. It's quite different from the other Oriental religions, though, so we give it some unique mechanics to separate it from them. Okay, well, that's all lovely stuff. There was also a video that was released fairly recently, so let me just pull that up as well. So, here is the Rebellion map that we saw in the previous dev diary. And I just wanted to highlight this because I pointed out that this looks really quite terrible. And I stand by this. This looks terrible. I said it'd look better if it was glowing, if it was flashing or whatever. And that seemed to be a fairly common accepted, people agreed with me on that one, it seemed. So we had the March update for Crusader Kings 3. And in it we got this little screenshot. So I just want to play this. I'm not going to play the entire video. I mean, it's 12 minutes long, and I'll put a link to this in the description below because it's definitely worth watching. But just to show what this does, it flashes. I don't think it looks as amazing as it possibly could look. I definitely think that EU4 and Imperator Rome do this kind of border flashingness better. But it's certainly a whole lot better. It is a hell of a lot better than just seeing it, static. And this leads me to believe that, probably what they should be doing in these dev diaries. Instead of posting images, they should be posting GIFs. See, one of the big things as well that I've disagreed with is what some of the characters look like. They look very waxy and the clothes look plasticky. But I imagine that as they are animated, they might look a lot better in motion. Now, a GIF would certainly help with that. It would really put those worries either to rest or cement them. And I think that would be kind of useful. I would very much like to see that. But yeah, I just wanted to show the borders here that are much better than in the dev diary. They flash, which is appreciated. Like I said, I do think the other games do these a little bit better. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So that is the dev diary, all about religion and faith, and I would love to know what you guys think. So please leave me your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about religion and faith when it refers to CK3. I don't want to know about your faith in real life. That's completely irrelevant. I don't care. But yeah, let me know what you think about this dev diary in the comment section below. Leave me a like if you liked the video, and if you want to keep up to date with all CK3 news and updates, hit the subscribe button, and there's going to be another one of these next week, because, I mean, unless they don't make one, but I assume they will. They probably will. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.